evening and welcome to Tinkering with Edkelar. As my last few projects showed, I started venturing into analog TV technology, which turned out to be quite a rabbit hole when it comes to test equipment. The pattern generator was the first device I rescued for a new life, and its servicing manual requires a frequency analyzer to precisely tune the RF components. New ones of these have a mid-range 5-digit price tag. Yikes! I did manage to find a reasonable used model on eBay, an HP ESA L1500A. The device arrived with some blemishes. The carry handle and 2 buttons are missing, as well as lots of dirt and grime on the outside. It is a mobile unit after all. Again, practice as usual. Disassembly first. The unit is pretty modular. It originally had an option for a tracking generator and also maybe a disk drive. The only expansion in my unit is a parallel and serial port card. Funny fact, the outside of the case proudly proclaims Made in USA, while the inside revealed one Made in Canada sticker after the other. Funny, eh? There was some sticky stuff on the front panel boards that made its way throughout the device. Almost every part had a few droplets of that stuff somewhere. Yuck! It smelled sugary though. Canada? Sticky syrup? Am I seeing a maple syrup accident here? Or is that too much of a stereotype? Oh, the CPU card has a soldered 3-volt battery. I'm glad to see that it didn't leak, but it sure needs replacing, right? Oh, still at 3 volts? Color me surprised. Still, I better replace it. The pack says it's from 1997. Removing part after part until the very base of the unit is exposed. A nice aluminium cast shield for the input circuitry, with about 1,000 screws holding it together. Well, it felt like that anyway. I undid them to check if there might be any suspicious parts inside and to properly clean the case. Again, checking all boards for suspicious electrolytic capacitors. But here, the only ones I found are on the audio output section and the main power supply, and those look quite fine. Late 1990s is also borderline okay in my book, so I'll just leave those. What I did find, however, are input filtering caps on the power supply. Reefer. Better replace those before powering on. These might be fail-safe types, but the brand is also known to fail for sure by now. I had close enough values around. The buttons on the front panel were obviously missing for some time. One is the off button, and it seems that somebody has used a screwdriver or similar implement to bridge out the contacts on the flex PCB for some time. Those are completely broken. I have some silver conductive paint from another project left, so here goes. Painting tracks back on the PCB, making sure that they are conducting but not bridging out the two traces. To substitute for the missing buttons, I sacrificed a cheap remote control. Looks weird, but it should work. The battery took a bit to arrive, so I have to postpone that to later. I can't wait to try to turn this puppy on. After cleaning all the parts, especially the syrup, I started to reassemble the thing. The aluminium case was particularly troublesome. Every time you tighten one screw, others would get loose again. So it's multiple passes over a ton of screws. Sheesh! The IF module, what seems to be doing the actual measurements, also is wrapped up in an aluminum case, but only has 6 screws. After connecting all the functional parts, here's the big moment of truth. Will it turn on? Woohoo! Looking good! And here's the finished... No, this won't do. The rubber bumper material is filthy, the buttons don't match, and the battery still needs replacing. This piece was expensive by comparison, so it might as well look the part. First, the battery. The new one arrived. Since I have no idea if there is any calibration data kept by the battery, I'm looking for the 3 volt on the board, solder in some temporary leads and power the thing from my lab supply while I remove the old battery and solder in the new one. Second, the buttons. There are some buttons of the same style around still. I removed one of them and poured a silicone mold. Since the buttons need to be rather precise shape on both sides, I have to make a split mold. Bottom first, with indexing pins, then spray on mold release and pour the top half. After carefully prying the halves apart, I have the perfect impression of the button. Sweet! I cut in a slight groove so the poured material has somewhere to go when I close up the mold for the new button. And here we go! I used the same silicone for the button, I just added a bit of pigment so it's not pink. Not my color. Sorry. Oh, and I did make 2 molds, so I can have a pair of matching buttons, since the coloring process is a bit random. After trimming the silicone, I applied some graphite spray on the contact surface. Nasty stuff, as I found out when I cleaned the workplace. Only use outdoors from now on. I'm putting in some sticky tape to keep the buttons in place while assembling. Third, the case. It had some scratches, so I went over it with a bit of sandpaper, added a bit of primer and a quick coat of fresh paint. After putting everything back together, it is time to test out the new buttons. And lo and behold, they work! Yes! Looks much better now. And my battery life support also worked. It even kept the date and time. Now for the final touch. Alcohol and elbow grease to clean off the gunk from the rubber bumpers. Sheesh, that has been caked on. Now for some quick testing. The L1500 model also has an official frequency range of 1 MHz to 1.5 GHz. Darn, I really wanted to use this to do some IF alignment on radios, come time to do that. A quick test reveals that this limit seems to be related to accuracy and not to possible range though. Nice! I only need peak detection anyway, so I'm good. Oh, did I mention that this thing also has VGA output? While the internal screen is monochrome, the VGA port does have a speck of color. I'll keep looking for a tracking generator module, an affordable one at least. And that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this tool tune-up. See you next time! This won't do. The rubber bump, but the... Rubber bumper, rubber bumper, rubber bumper, the rubber bumper material is filthy. The rubber bumper material is filthy. The rubber bumper material is filthy. Got it. This won't do. The rubber bumper, but